So now let's start working on cropping the images before upload. Now before we begin, I would highly recommend to watch at least the section 2 of this course. I'm only going to explain the new code which we are going to write in this video. So let me show you some images first. So here we are on the home page, and here you can see we have this new button, crop image. So this button is going to be conditionally rendered. This button is only going to be shown when there is an image provided by the user to upload. And when the user clicks on this button, this model is going to be shown. On the left, we are going to show this cropper with the preview of the image, and on the right, the final output of the image. And below this, we have these buttons. I'm going to explain these buttons later. First, let's create this layout. And the package we are using is this one, React Cropper. So make sure to install this package inside your project. Now back to VS Code. Inside the post directory, I'm going to create a new file, crop image model.js. And this is going to be a React component. And inside this, we are going to receive the props. We are going to receive media preview. We are going to receive set media, show model, and set show model. And save. So let's leave this component here for now, and we will import this inside the create post. So here inside this create post component, we are going to create a state, show model, and set show model. So this state is going to be to toggle the visibility of the model. Use state is going to be false. And now in the return statement, we have the div right here for the drag and drop. After this div, we are going to check if media preview is not equals to null, and let's add fragments. And here we are going to have a divider with the hidden prop. And after this divider, we are going to have a button. So this button is going to be that crop image button, the content crop image. Type is going to be button. It is going to have the prop of primary and circular. And also we're going to have an on click on this. So set show model to true. So this is just a simple button with an on click where we are setting the model state to true. And now at the top of the return statement, we're going to check if show model is equals to true. Only then we are going to have crop image model. And let's pass in the props inside this. So media preview, set media, show model, and set show model. So notice here I am passing the media preview and the set media. So if I go to the image again, this preview is going to be generated with the media preview. So if you have watched the section 2, inside the handle change, we are setting the media preview to url.createObject URL with the first element of the files. So that's why inside the crop image model, we are passing media preview because the cropper can only generate the preview with the string, not with an object. And here I am passing the set media function, not the set media preview, because if I go to the handle submit function, when we are calling the upload pic function, we are passing the media state. So if I go to the image again, when the user crops the image, the final output is going to be stored in the media state because this is the actual state we are uploading to Cloudinary. Here you can see we are passing in the media. So now let's start working on this model. Now before we start working here, I'm going to go to the package again. And here inside the quick example, we have to import the CSS file inside our underscore app.js file. Inside our app.js. So if you do not add this CSS file, the cropper won't be formatted properly. Now inside this model, we are going to import use state and use effect. Also, we're going to need some components from semantic UI React. We are going to need model, header, button, grid, and icon. And also, obviously, we're going to import the cropper from React cropper. So now inside the functional component, we're going to have a state cropper and set cropper. Use state, it is going to be undefined by default. And now inside the return statement, let's add fragments here. We're going to have a modal. Now on this modal, we're going to have close on demo click to false. The size of this modal is going to be large. On close, set show modal to false. And after this, we're going to have an open prop. So this is only going to be open when the show modal is equals to true. And let's save it first, reformat it. So now inside this modal, we're going to first of all have an header. The content is going to be crop image before upload. So this header is going to be this text right here, this heading, crop image before upload. And after this header, we're going to have a grid. It is going to have a columns prop of 2. And inside this grid.column. And inside this grid.column, we're going to have model.content. On this model.content, we're going to have an image prop. And now inside this, we're going to have cropper, the component we have. Now this cropper is going to have a lot of props. First of all, we're going to have a style object. The height is going to be 400 pixels. And the width is going to be 100%. Now after this style object, we're going to have another prop, crop box resizable. So crop box resizable. So now if I go to the documentation for this package, you can click on this image cropper. And here for the information about the props, you can go to this see the available options of cropper.js. So these are all the props you can pass to this component. I'm only going to explain the important ones. If you want, you can check out the documentation for future reference. So crop box resizable, if I go to the image again, the user will be able to resize this crop box by holding these edges right here. So these are points. If the user clicks on these, the crop box will be resizable. After this, we are going to have zoomable. So zoomable, when the user scrolls the mouse wheel. So if the user is on PC and the user scrolls the mouse wheel on this, the picture will zoom. And if the user is on mobile, they will be able to pinch the screen to zoom into the image. So by default, these are true. If you want to change this functionality, you can set it to false. Highlight. And after this, we're going to have responsive. And after this, we're going to have guides. So the guides here are these grids right here, these guides inside the grid. If you do not want it, you can set it to false. Also, I want to tell you here that these props are not required by default. So you do not need to pass these props because these are enabled by default and are set to true. If you do not want to add these, you can completely remove this from here. It will still work. But I am only adding these so that you know these are the important ones. After this, we're going to have drag mode of move. So I will explain this prop later in the video. Initial aspect ratio 1. So I'm adding 1 here because I want the image to be a perfect square by default. If you want any other aspect ratio, for example 16 by 9, you can add 16 by 9 here if you want that aspect ratio. Preview. Here we're going to add dot image preview. So I will also explain this preview later in the video. Now we're going to have a source. So source, we're going to have media preview. So as I explained earlier, the cropper can only generate preview from a URL string, not from any object. That's why we have passed media preview inside this component, not the media state. View mode is going to be 1. Minimum crop box height 10 and minimum crop box width also 10. Again, I'm only going to explain the important ones here. If you want to check these out, what these prop does, you can check out the documentation. Now after this, we're going to have a background, to false. Auto crop area is going to be 1. Check orientation, to false. On initialized. It is a function, and inside this function, you receive a cropper instance. So this is the actual cropper. And inside this function, we are going to call set cropper and pass in this cropper instance. So when the component mounts on initialize, we are going to receive this cropper instance and we are going to pass it inside the cropper state. So this is our left column. If I go to the image again, this code is for the left column. Now let's create this right column. After this grid dot column, we're going to have another column here. Inside this, we're going to have modal.content, again an image. And we're going to have a div header as h2. So the h2 of the HTML. And inside this header, icon, name of this icon is going to be file image outline. And after this header dot content, self closing tag, the content is going to be final and save. So this header is this one right here, this icon and this same text. And after this header, we are going to have another div. And inside this div, we are going to have another div. And on this div, we are going to have a style object. So style, the width is going to be 100%. Height is going to be 300 pixels. After this, we're going to have a display of inline block. And after this, we're going to have a padding of 10 pixels. Overflow will be hidden. And box sizing, border box. And now we are also going to add a class to this. So class name. Now the class name of this div will be this one right here, image preview. So on this cropper, we added the preview dot image preview. So I'm going to copy this image preview from here, not the dot, only the class name, and paste it here. So the preview from this cropper, the final output from this cropper will be shown in this div because of this class name. And this one is going to be a self-closing tag. So I'm going to remove the closing tag and add a self-closing tag here. So this was the right column. If I go to the image again, we have created the right column now. Now let's create these buttons. So after this grid, we are going to have modal.actions. And now inside these actions, we are going to have these buttons. So I'm just going to copy the layout for this. I'm only copying the layout. We will add the functionality together and paste. So now if I run my server, so here I am on the home page. I'm going to add an image here. And you can see we get the button crop image. If I click on this, we have the cropper. So if I could scroll on this image with my mouse wheel, you can see you can zoom in and zoom out. And also this crop box is resizable. So if you click on these edges right here, you can resize the crop box any way you like. So now in the next video, we are going to start working on these buttons. These are just simple buttons right now. We will add functionality to these buttons in the next video.